My name is Olivia, and I want to tell you a story about how I learned to speak English fluently and improved my IQ level. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was a beautiful one. When I was a little girl, I lived in a small village. The people around me spoke a different language, and English was something I only heard in movies. I felt alone sometimes because I wanted to understand the stories in those movies, but the words felt like puzzles I couldn't solve. One day, I found an old book in a dusty corner of our house. It was written in English. I didn't understand most of the words, but I could see the pictures. I decided that I wanted to understand the words too. This was the beginning of my journey. At first, it was very hard. I would cry because I couldn't understand anything. I felt so small in a world full of big words. But I didn't give up. I started with one word at a time. Apple, I said, pointing at a picture. Then, cat slowly. The words began to make sense. There were days when I felt like I was all alone. My friends laughed at me because I was reading a book they couldn't understand. But I remembered something my grandmother told me once. The tree that stands alone has the strongest roots. I knew that even if I was alone now, I was growing stronger. As I kept learning, I realized something important. Every time I learned a new word, my mind felt a little brighter, a little sharper. It was like opening a new window in a dark room. I could see more, understand more. My IQ was getting better, and I could feel it. I started practicing every day. I would look at the sky and say, "The sky is blue." When I saw a bird, I would say, "The bird is flying." These small sentences made me feel happy. I felt like I was making friends with the world around me. One day, I had to speak in front of my class. I was so scared that my hands were shaking. But I remembered that I had been practicing. I took a deep breath and said, "Hello, my name is Mia." It was a simple sentence, but it made me feel so powerful. My teacher smiled at me, and I knew I was doing something right. Learning English was not just about words for me. It was about becoming a better person. It taught me patience because I had to learn slowly. It taught me courage because I had to speak even when I was afraid. And it taught me that being alone was not a bad thing because it made me stronger. Sometimes I would feel sad. I missed the times when learning was easy, like when I was a little girl and all I had to do was play. But then I would remind myself of all the words I had learned. I would think about how much I had grown, and I would feel proud. My favorite part of learning English was reading stories. I would get lost in the words, imagining myself in different worlds. I learned that every story has a lesson, just like my life. I realized that the more I read, the more I understood about life. One day, I found myself reading without stopping to translate in my head. The words flowed like a river, and I could see the pictures in my mind. I cried tears of joy because I knew that I had become fluent in English. Now, I want to share what I learned with you. If you want to become excellent in English, start with one word at a time. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Remember that it's okay to feel alone sometimes because that's when you grow the most. And always keep reading because every story you read will make you better. Whenever you feel like giving up, remember the tree that stands alone. It grows its roots deep into the ground and it becomes strong. You are like that tree. The more you learn, the stronger you become. As I look back on my journey, I realized that learning English was not just about speaking another language. It was about learning how to face challenges, how to be patient, and how to keep going even when things were tough. It was about becoming a better version of myself. And now, whenever I see someone struggling to learn, I tell them my story. I tell them that it's okay to cry, it's okay to feel alone, and it's okay to take small steps. Because every small step you take brings you closer to your goal. So, my dear friend, take that first step today. Pick up a book, listen to a song, say a word out loud. Start your journey, and don't be afraid. You are not alone, and you are stronger than you think. I promise you that one day you will look back and smile at how far you've come. You will see that every tear, every lonely moment, and every hard word was worth it. Because in the end, you will not only be fluent in English, but you will also be excellent in life. As I continued on my journey to learn English, I found myself drawn deeper into the world of stories. Each story I read felt like a new adventure, and every new word was like a key that opened a door to a world I had never seen before. The more I read, the more I realized that English wasn't just a language, it was a way to connect with people, with ideas, and with emotions that I had never known before. There were days when I would sit by the window, watching the rain fall outside, and read for hours. I loved the sound of the rain, and I loved the way the words flowed together like the raindrops on the glass. Sometimes I would get lost in the stories and forget where I was. I would imagine myself as the heroine, facing challenges, overcoming obstacles, and finding strength in the most unexpected places. But there were also times when I felt overwhelmed. Learning a new language is not easy, and there were moments when I felt like I was trying to climb a mountain that was too tall for me. I remember one night, sitting alone in my room, crying. because I couldn't understand a passage in a book. The words seemed to blur together, and I felt like I would never be able to make sense of them. In that moment, I felt so alone. But then I remembered something my mother had once told me: the night is darkest before the dawn. I wiped my tears and took a deep breath. I knew that I couldn't give up. I had come too far to turn back now. I decided to take a break and come back to the passage later. When I did, the words seemed a little clearer, and I was able to understand them better. That night, I learned an important lesson. Sometimes the best thing you can do is to step back, take a deep breath, and give yourself a moment to rest. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, but it's important to keep going, even if you have to take small steps. Every small step you take brings you closer to your goal. As the months passed, I began to notice changes in myself. My mind felt sharper, and I was able to think more clearly. I started to solve problems more easily, and I felt more confident in my abilities. It was as if learning English had unlocked a part of my brain that I didn't even know existed. One day, I was asked to help a new student in my class who didn't speak our language. She was from another country, and she was struggling to understand what was being taught. I remembered how I had felt when I first started learning English, and I wanted to help her. I sat with her during lunch and began to teach her some simple words and phrases. At first, she was shy and hesitant, but as we practiced together, I could see her confidence growing. I told her, "Don't worry about making mistakes. Every mistake is a step forward." She smiled, and I knew that she was beginning to believe in herself. Helping her made me realize how far I had come. It wasn't just about learning a language anymore. It was about connecting with others, sharing what I had learned, and helping others on their own journeys. It made me feel proud and gave me a sense of purpose. One evening, I sat down to write a letter to my grandmother. I wanted to tell her about all the things I had learned and how much I had grown. As I wrote, I realized that I was writing in English without even thinking about it. The words flowed naturally, and it felt like a conversation with an old friend. I smiled as I wrote, knowing that my grandmother would be proud of me. But there was something else I wanted to tell her, something I hadn't told anyone else. I wanted to tell her about the dreams I had for the future. I wanted to travel, to see the world, and to meet people from different cultures. I wanted to use the English I had learned to connect with people from all over the world. I knew that learning English was just the beginning of my journey, and I was excited about where it would take me. As I finished the letter, I felt a sense of peace. I knew that I was on the right path, and that no matter what challenges came my way, I would be able to handle them. I had learned how to be patient, how to be brave, and how to keep going even when things were tough. And most importantly, I had learned how to believe in myself. The next day, I went for a walk in the park. It was a beautiful day, and the sun was shining brightly. As I walked, I thought about all the things I had learned and how far I had come. I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey I had been on and for all the people who had helped me along the way. I sat down on a bench and watched the children playing nearby. They were laughing and running around, full of energy and joy. I realized that they were just beginning their own journeys, and I hoped that they would find the same joy in learning that I had found. As I sat there, I thought about the girl I had been when I first started learning English, the girl who felt alone and scared, who cried because she couldn't understand the words in a book. And then I thought about the girl I had become, the girl who was fluent in English, who was confident and strong, and who was ready to face the world. I knew that my journey wasn't over. There were still many things I wanted to learn, many places I wanted to go, and many people I wanted to meet. But I also knew that I was ready for whatever came next. I had the tools I needed to succeed, and I had the confidence to use them. As I got up to leave, I felt a sense of excitement about the future. I knew that there would be challenges ahead, but I also knew that I was strong enough to face them. I was no longer the girl who felt alone and scared. I was the girl who had learned how to handle any situation, who had become excellent in English, and who was ready to take on the world. And so my journey continued. Every day brought new challenges, new opportunities, and new lessons. But no matter what happened, I knew that I would keep going. I would keep learning, keep growing, and keep becoming the best version of myself. Because that's what it means to be excellent. It means never giving up, never stopping, and always striving to be better. It means believing in yourself, even when things are tough, and knowing that you have the strength to overcome any obstacle. And so, I keep walking forward one step at a time, always looking ahead, always moving towards the future, and always believing in the power of words, the power of learning, and the power of the human spirit.